Feeding issues are amazingly common. You'll hear parents in surveys report 10 to 25% of children with feeding struggles, which could be a variety of areas of concern. And for children with disabilities, it's as much as 50 or more % of children who have problems with feeding. Feeding is a complex process. It involves lots of muscles, lots of bodily processes. Many people believe feeding is one of the most complex processes that kids need to do. So this can be overwhelming for parents, and parents should understand that. I think they need permission to feel overwhelmed and not to think of it as their fault. But when they're overwhelmed, they need to seek out answers, and they need to partner with their physician and other interventionists or specialists to get those answers. But it's not uncommon to feel overwhelmed, and they just need to work through that and get the right kind of help.
She wasn't doing very well when involved with that program. Her anxiety was extremely high during the program, and the 4-week program, after 2 weeks, the doctors that were involved with that program said, we need to stop the treatment because it's not making her better. In fact, it's making her worse.
We in medical school, I'm talking about all doctors, don't really learn a lot about feeding. It's a relatively new field of understanding and draws from different areas of specialty in pediatrics. So all kinds of doctors can be involved with kids, which is sometimes the challenge. You go to see one doctor and he or she may not be expert in that area. They may not know that this is something they need to further evaluate. And so parents sometimes feel stuck. They're not getting the answers that they need to their questions, and they're frustrated. What I hate to hear a pediatrician say is, oh, don't worry. Parents are worried whether the pediatrician is worried or not, and I think pediatricians need to share their families, their children's, their parents' worries. If a parent is worried about something, the pediatrician needs to begin to try to answer those questions.
I'm there observing my daughter every day. I know her behaviors, I know the patterns, and they don't get that luxury because they only see her 10, 15 minutes at a time. So you know, it's important that you have a voice and that you say, I don't necessarily agree with this, and this is why, because this is what I observe. And you know, every doctor I've seen with Lucy's issues has been very receptive to that. And we do oftentimes change the course of treatment based on me saying, I don't agree, and this is why.
The short interim goals were, will she lick it? Will she touch it? Will she kiss it? Will she take a little bite of it? Will she take a big bite of it? Those were all what ifs, I guess, short-term goals, is to say, what will she do with this food if we put food A in front of her, or food B, or food C? How will she react? And that was something, I guess, is a short-term goal, what we were doing, but we weren't really informed of what a long-term or a successful long-term goal would be in a 4-week period of time, or a 6-week period of time, or an 8-week period of time. I think it's very important that parents are involved with establishing the goals for their kid, and because obviously they know what's best for their child, but it's important that they have something in mind and are able to communicate that with a doctor and to say, this is what I would like to see.
And it's okay to keep asking questions. If the physician or other specialist isn't answering your question, keep asking until you feel satisfied with the answer.
I think it's very important, because you know your child better than anybody else, that if you are doubting up front that the plan that they're suggesting is, you really doubt whether it's going to be successful or not, you need to communicate those concerns with the doctor. It's very easy to fall into, well, they're the doctor, I'm going to do this for 2 weeks. If you see after 3 days that your child's miserable and you're not making any progress, and that's what you thought it would be, then you need to call your doctor, even if it's the nurse's line, and say, this isn't working. You know, can you call me back so we can discuss? Don't necessarily wait the entire 2 weeks, because, you know, you lose valuable time.
When parents are not satisfied with the answers they're getting from their pediatrician, and every child is different, every situation is different, not every pediatrician has training or interest, but if they're not getting answers to their questions, I think they need to look for another pediatrician or another specialist who will help them get those answers. And it's okay for a pediatrician or any doctor to say, you know, I don't know the answer to that question. I think that's human nature. I have much more respect for a physician who says, I don't know, but let's see if we can find out the answer to this. I have a colleague, or there's a specialist in town or in my institution that has more experience with this or is likely to give us a different set of answers. Let's look for those answers together.
It's important that you give your pediatrician the facts and don't just take what they say and not challenge if you feel strongly or you feel like, oh, I don't agree with this, you know, because you truly are your child's advocate.
Trust your instinct, listen to your gut. You know your child best. You need to understand that it's okay to see somebody else and get another opinion. And you're with your child more so than anybody else, so you know your child best and you know what's best for your child. And a doctor may say, you know, if you want to see these results, you got to do this. Well, if you don't feel that it's right, then you got to do what's right for your child, and you got to do what's best for them and for their health.
Parents need to feel empowered, once again, to ask questions if they don't understand what a physician is telling them or the rationale behind certain interventions. So parents need to ask questions. They need to know the goals of the intervention. They need to know what to follow. They need to have someone to call when they have questions or if things are not going their way, as opposed to come back in 2 months or in 3 months and they might be going down the wrong path. So they need communication from their physician. They need to see this as a partnership in helping their child meet their goals and surpass the feeding struggles. And that's a part of what every physician should do with a parent. It needs to be a team.